Hello everybody. Today we are working on a free computer that a friend of mine gave me. It's a Dell Inspiron 620 and it was made in 2012. And I don't know anything about this except that my friend said it worked and he also removed the hard drive. I actually got this a few months ago. Just getting to it now. That's the way my life is these days. But yeah, don't know a whole lot about it, except that it ran Windows 7. It was so close to making Windows 8, but it didn't make it. And it's got a Core i3. I found conflicting information on the internet as to if this was a second gen or third gen CPU. I found posts that say both. I'm guessing it's going to be a second gen, but we'll find out. She's a bit mucked. Actually, most of this isn't scratches. It's sticker residue of some sort. We got some scratches here. Lovely piano black finish. That's sarcasm, and I'm sure that's a blinding blue LED, and probably one in the power button as well. And what have we got here? Yeah, this flips down. We've got USB ports, not super speed, USB 2.0, which is kind of odd on a machine from 2012. Analog audio and a card reader, which is nice. Anything in there? Nope. Anything in there? A DVD-RW drive. Very nice. That's very useful to have. We got the tag up there. Manufacture date February 23rd, 2012. And it's got a Windows 7 license on it, Windows 7 Home Premium. Now, I recall reading recently that, I forget if it affects both Windows 10 and 11 or just 11. I think it was both, that Microsoft was changing stuff to not allow Windows 10 or 11 to be activated using Windows 7 or 8 license keys anymore. We will find out when we install Windows 10 on this, which is what I'm going to do, assuming it does indeed work. We'll find out if that's true. I hope it's not. That'll make things a little bit trickier for me. We got the power supply. It's got a bit of dust coming out of it. It's got a case fan. Apparently something lived here that doesn't anymore. I'm not sure what that would be. Maybe he had a video card in it. We've got USB for days. Once again, no super speed apparently, unless they just didn't mark it as such, but apparently USB 2.0. It does have the little plus symbol, which means they are high current ports. At least once again, if they've used the symbol correctly, that means they can supply, I believe, 2 amps instead of the standard 500 milliamps. So good for charging stuff or running a USB optical drive or whatever. It's got Ethernet, gigabit I assume, VGA, more analog audio, and that's it for the outside. Certainly not a terribly exciting machine. But it's cool to see you can get a second or third gen i-series machine for free now, because in my opinion they are still perfectly fine for basic tasks. I mean, for goodness sake, a year and a half ago I was using a first gen i-series machine as my main computer. So yeah, these are still aging pretty well, although Microsoft is doing their darndest to make sure that they make them obsolete as quickly as possible. Let's get the cover off here and see what lies within. We're in. Looks like pretty bog standard stuff. I used to have an Inspiron 530. I junked it when, I don't know if it was a broken solder joint or what, but the motherboard would just constantly give you the beep code for bad RAM no matter what RAM you put in it. It was always flaky with the RAM, and eventually it just wouldn't run at all, so I junked it. But this is very similar inside to that machine. 620 is probably more or less the successor to the 530. Optical drive was unplugged for some reason, but the cables were the SATA cables are still here, so that's good. What do we got for power supply? 200, nope, that's just for 300 watts. She's a powerhouse. Throw a RTX 4090 or whatever in here, no problem. We still have RAM. How much RAM do we got? They are mismatched, so it was upgraded at some point. We've got a 4 gig and a 2 gig, so she's got 6 gigs of RAM, definitely not running in dual channel mode, perfect. That looks like it should have had a heatsink on it, but I'm guessing that's just the way it came. And, oh dear, I'm an idiot. So we've got a PCI Express X16 and 3 X1 slots. I feel so stupid right now because I had a very specific purpose for this computer. I was actually going to take this to the TV station, set it up in my little back office behind the studio where I do videotape digitization, because the workflow that I've been using to digitize videotapes, which was using a NewTek TriCaster that was given to us, I can't do that anymore because the analog video circuits in that TriCaster are actually failing. They've started failing since I've started using that machine, and also it has some bugs and sometimes it crashes and stuff, which I'm pretty sure is just standard TriCaster. Anyway, that machine is becoming unsuitable for digitizing videotapes, so I was going to go back to the old way that I used to do it when I first started in 2020, which was just doing it over FireWire with a DV workflow, using WinDV to capture, and Bob's your uncle. Except I planned on fitting this thing with a PCI FireWire card that I found at the station, and this thing doesn't have PCI slots. Oh no! So I can't really use this for that unless I buy a $20 PCI Express FireWire card, which I could do, but I'm not gonna do, because why would I spend money on a computer this old when I've got lots of other computers that A, either have PCI slots, or B, already have onboard FireWire, which is the case of some of the laptops I have. So I guess this isn't going to the station. I'll just be bringing another computer instead. But now we are at, what the heck do I do with a free second gen computer? I've got nowhere to use this thing. So this has become an endeavor with no end goal, but we'll still get it running. I can't sell it because it was given to me for free by a friend. That's just a policy I have. I don't sell stuff that I was given for free. So I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with this, but nonetheless, we will get it running. I'm kind of tempted to remove the heatsink to see what CPU's under there. I'm not going to bother. We'll find out once we get into the BIOS. Yeah, it all looks fine in here. So, of course, we got no hard drive. Unfortunately, he appears to have taken the little toolless rails that Dell always does. He appears to have chucked the hard drive with the rails still attached. Oh no! Oh, sneaky Dell! So this looks like the standard Dell toolless design with the little green plastic rails, and you slide it in and it clicks in place. It looks like that, but it's not. I bet they work in here maybe, but what Dell actually did, because the hard drive sat right here, and then there was a space for a spare one, and they give you the spare rails, and they screw into place. They screw on the hard drive, and then they screw into here. So sneaky Dell, it looks just like their toolless design, but you actually have screws to work with. Okay, so we still have a way to mount the hard drive, which is good. So, I am going to have to clean this guy up. So let me find the perfect hard drive, and I'll come back. Very specific reason I chose this circa 2008 Western Digital RE2 hard drive. It was free and taking up space in my parts box. And it's a Dell branded drive, so how could I say no? Hey, I could have chose a circa 2005 Maxtor SATA 150 drive. That would have been fun. Uh, Western Digital RE2, this is apparently a server grade drive, which is kind of cool. Don't know what I got this drive out of anymore. But it's 160 gigabytes, 7200 RPM, server grade drive. So hopefully it will be a speed demon. But it's perfect for this computer and for what we're doing today. So I'll get these rails out, I'll bolt it up, and then we'll finally power this thing on. Alright, here we are. We've got a circa 1999 Sony Trinitron monitor, whatever Lenovo USB keyboard, and a effed up busted Microsoft USB mouse with a melting scroll wheel. Only the best peripherals for this guy. So let's hit the power and hope it doesn't explode. Power's on. It's got an orange LED. And let's hit the power button. Oh, it's white instead of blue. That's good. That's refreshing to see. Alright. Monitor has not woken up yet. It's not flashing any codes or anything. This thing does have an HDMI port on it. I wonder if it's been set to only check the HDMI for a monitor and not the VGA. I don't know. Do we try taking the RAM out? I mean, with the exception of the hard drive, I'm powering this computer on as it was given to me. And it was given to me as a working machine. Let's just see if I can make it cry for help with no RAM. Just any sign of life. Yes. Okay, that's good. And the power light's flashing white and orange. Okay. So we are alive. Let's put the RAM back in. Nothing. I do not have... I do. I was going to say I don't have an HDMI monitor, but what I have is an HDMI to DVI cable, and I can hook it up to this monitor here. So let me grab that cable, and we'll try that, I guess. I've got both video outputs connected. Nothing. I also tried unhooking both of the drives and booting. Nothing. Uh-oh. Is the internal GPU in this thing dead? Is that what was in this slot? No, because this opening is for an X1 slot, so it wouldn't have been a video card. Still a possibility, I suppose. I mean, the thing's not totally dead because it complains when you remove the RAM. Let me try with just one RAM stick. Got it! It was a flaky RAM stick. And we have video here, but the CRT woke up too. Real-time clock is reset. BIOS setup default has been loaded. Hard disk drive failure. No boot device available. Not installed, not installed, not installed. Okay, so we're good. F2. And we're duplicated on both monitors. Good. Unplug that guy because we don't need it. So we have potentially a bad stick of RAM. This was the 2 gigabyte stick, and the other stick is 4 gigs. So we still got 4 gigs of RAM, which, let's face it, we're not going to be doing anything with this that needs more than that. Cool. A build date of late 2011. i3-2120, so it's a second gen, 3.3 gigahertz. And the BIOS setup is called Aptio by American Megatrends. Interesting, it's an AMI BIOS instead of Dell's own homegrown BIOS, being an Inspiron. Still very interesting, because I know Dell's consumer laptops of this time had like Dell's own, like I had a Dell Inspiron laptop. I really briefly had this laptop that was made in 2010 or 2011, an Inspiron laptop, and it had Dell's own GUI BIOS in it that I remember. In fact, the 1525 I think might have even had it. So why this thing has an old school text-based AMI BIOS, that's very interesting. Alright, well let me plug the drives back in. I'll see if I can get that other stick of RAM to work, and then we'll come back. Alright, well, I figured it was best to give you guys a direct hookup. I did get the second RAM chip to work, so we're working with 6 gigs of RAM, which is amazing. And it's even running in dual channel mode, despite the fact that they are different size sticks of RAM, so apparently that's okay. Sees the hard drive, sees the DVD-RW drive. So the first thing I want to do is, it's always fun for me to see, because I have no idea, I don't remember where I even got this hard drive from anymore. I wonder, presumably there's an operating system on it. It's always fun to see how far that operating system will manage to boot on a foreign computer. So let's just save my settings. We'll see if anything's on this hard drive and if it tries to boot. Nice post splash screen, although it's not. It doesn't account for 4x3. I think I saw Windows XP. I wasn't up there for very long while I was talking. Oh my god, it's Windows XP. Is it gonna boot? Or will we get the blue screen? I'll be very surprised if this finishes booting. Wow, you are kidding me. Oh, we have no mouse. We have no mouse. We have no keyboard. The keyboard lights don't even respond. I assume it's Windows doing that and not something wrong with the computer itself. Oh, that's funny. It actually tried to start up now. That's pretty funny. So, what we're going to do, because we want to install an OS on this, is I want to put Windows 10 on this, just because it's the most reasonable thing to put on it. But I don't currently have a USB flash drive with the Windows 10 installer on it, and I don't want to go through with formatting one. So what I have here is a DVD copy of an egregiously old version of Windows 10 that I burned in university. I got it through the DreamSpark program, so it is a legal copy of Windows 10, although there's no such thing as an illegal copy of Windows 10 anymore. But it's got its own license key and everything. So this is probably from like 2015, 2016. I don't even know what it's been so long since I used an early version of Windows 10. Of course, they upgrade themselves automatically. Does an early version of Windows 10, is it even able to update itself if it has access to the internet, or is it going to look for like servers that aren't there anymore in the past 8 years? I don't know. But oh, our mouse works now. But that's what we're going to try. I just want to see if this thing finishes booting. Oh! I use this drive. It's a clean install. I see the post Universal Service Pack 4 updates. So this was me. I installed this. I still can't believe it booted. Wow. So presumably you could probably run Windows XP on this core. This is the first time I've ever seen Windows XP run on a post Core 2 system. This is very interesting. Although I've heard of people running XP on a computer this new. I think it's a little silly though. These days I'm more on, in the years of old, I was always a fan of running the newest possible version of Windows that ran correctly on hardware. Now I'm more about keeping everything period correct. This is funny though. Maybe I'll try running Windows XP on this and see how well it runs. I had Avast installed and everything. I don't know if I recommend running Avast antivirus. I was a proponent of it for years, but I think it's slowly turning into like spyware, which I'm a big opponent of now after having my identity stolen last year. Okay. We are going to put our very old Windows 10 DVD in. Windows 10 doesn't even fit on a DVD anymore. And we're just going to hard power cycle this thing. See if this DVD drive works. And indeed it does. And there we go. So presumably this is going to go smoothly, so you don't have to watch Windows 10 install. You've all seen it 100 times. So once I have it installed, we will come back. And here we are. Early Windows 10. Windows 10's changed a lot in the last 8 years. We've got the old Windows 10 background. They updated it in later versions. I always liked this early version more. We've got Cortana. She's dead now. And look at this. They were pushing the Windows Phone theme hard. This was better days for Microsoft, in my opinion. I thought the design was just fantastic. Windows Phone was still kind of alive, although we all knew at the time that it was failing. But maybe it's just a nostalgia. You know, I tested Windows 10 when it was still in its beta stages, and I thought, holy crap, this is going to be the Windows to beat for years. And I was right. It could be just nostalgia, but to me, this was better days for Windows than today. Anyway, I've got no network hooked up to this thing yet. We'll plug a network cable in, and I'm just curious to see if it'll like completely update itself. What version of Windows 10 are we running? 15.11. Whew! Cool. Wow, even the settings panel has changed compared to newer versions of Windows 10. Alright, because I'm curious, I'll plug a network cable in. It may take all night. We might have to pick this up tomorrow, but I'm just curious if it'll update all the way to the current version. We're back. It's a couple of days later. So I left this thing connected to the internet to update, and it actually did update a lot, but not all the way. We are now running version 20H2, so 2020 version, and I cannot get it to update anymore. The first thing it did was, on the original 15.11, it installed some normal small security updates, the latest of which I think was from 2021, and then it just stopped there, and it wouldn't get any more updates. But I could hear the hard drive churning constantly, so I knew something must have been happening behind the scenes that it just wasn't letting me know, and sure enough, it was downloading the Windows 10 20H2 upgrade assistant. And so eventually a little notification popped up that said, upgrade your Windows 10, so I did. So now we're on 20H2, and it installed a few more updates, but it keeps giving me an error now that's preventing me from updating the rest of the way. So we seem to be stuck on 20H2. It says we're missing important security and quality fixes. Tries to install this update, and then it gives me this error. I don't know, whatever. For our purposes, it's fine. But you can see, even just between version 15.11 and 20H2, Windows 10 changed a lot. We've got the new background here, which I'm not quite as big of a fan of as the older background. Taskbar's changed a lot. We got the little weather doodad that comes up if you mouse over it accidentally, and then you have a hard time getting rid of it. Case in point. A bunch of icons have changed. Of course, Edge has changed a lot. You look at the start menu, and it is way more bleak and less of that sort of positive futurism. Everything's a drab gray now. You can see a bunch of the boxes that were present in the early version. They've been removed now just because those features have disappeared, and they never put new things in their place because, of course, Microsoft isn't doing the Metro or whatever they call this style of start menu. If you can't tell, I've got kind of a pessimistic view of Microsoft these days, and I'll let you in on a little secret. I've been running Linux on my kitchen computer for the past couple of months. Video about that to come at some point. But yeah, I just, this newer drabber Windows 10 just doesn't seem, it doesn't have that optimism that the earlier versions of Windows 10 did. But that's the way she goes now. It's kind of funny, when it upgraded from 1511 to 20H2, of course 1511 had the earlier version of Edge that had like the Internet Explorer E logo, and of course they changed the logo in the later versions. Well, you might see this little blank spot that lights up when I mouse over it. That's another button for Edge. For some reason, when it upgraded Edge, it inserted another button in the taskbar. The old button's still here, but there's no icon because it doesn't exist anymore. But if I click that, it just brings up Microsoft Edge. So there you go. So something I did was, I ran Passmark performance test, and are you ready for our prestigious score? Oh geez, that mechanical hard drive, I think it's a little fragmented. There's our excellent score, 245, we're in the second percentile. Oh, that's fantastic. Our weakest points, of course, being the graphics and the disk mark. Although none of these, I mean, we're still in the 7th percentile for CPU and the 18th for memory. So pretty bad all around. But so you're not going to be gaming on this, at least not as is. But I still maintain an opinion that for basic tasks, web browsing, Facebook, YouTube, doing your homework, email, whatever, basically almost anything except gaming or video editing maybe, this is going to be fine. I still think these are very capable systems. Best thing you can do for this is stick an SSD in it. The maximum is apparently 8 gigs of RAM, or at least that's the official maximum. I wouldn't be surprised if you can actually stick 16 in there. And then as for the CPU, you're limited by Dell's BIOS as to what CPUs are supported. This thing has an i3-2120, 3.3 gigahertz. I'm going to assume that's a dual core. I actually don't know, although we might be able to check using the task manager. Yeah, it's a dual core hyper-threading. So you're limited by Dell's BIOS for the CPU support. The fastest CPU people have confirmed to work is the i5-2400. There's obviously much faster CPUs in the second gen core series, but they either haven't been tested at all or they've been tested and don't work. But you're at the mercy of Dell's BIOS. So the CPU in this thing, we had a Passmark score of 2145. The i5-2400, 3860. So there's quite a jump in performance, even just going from the processor in here to the fastest known support, which is the i5-2400. Now let's say you did want to try and game with your free 12-year-old PC. Well, your biggest limiting factor is going to be the power supply. Now the nice thing is, unlike the Dells of old, this thing uses a standard ATX power supply, so it can be upgraded. The power supply that comes in this thing is only rated for 300 watts maximum. So you're not going to be putting much for video cards in here, but NVIDIA, just for an example, makes a card called the GTX 1650. It has a TDP of only 75 watts, and it doesn't require any 6-pin or 8-pin power plugs. So it'll just slot right in here. Theoretically, you should be able to just shove it in here, and it should work as is. No need to upgrade the power supply or anything. And the GTX 1650 still has more graphics power than, for example, the Steam Deck or its competitor, the Asus ROG Ally. So not a bad choice at all. They're probably quite cheap as well, if I had to guess, being a low-end card. Now, how I wanted to end this video was to demonstrate how, if you upgrade the power supply, you could put a really beefy GPU in this and probably do at the very least, some moderate gaming on it. And I actually pulled out my Sparkle Power Magna 1200 and this Radeon R9 390, which is a high-ish end video card from 2015. And then I realized that the card actually won't physically fit in here because the drive cage is in the way, and the drive cage is riveted to the case, so it's not removable. So that was a bust, and I don't have any decent smaller cards to put in, but the GTX 1650 is a smaller card. It'll definitely fit in there. And that's it for this free Dell Inspiron 620 from 2012. Works just fine, and I maintain my opinion that a computer like this is just fine for basic tasks. And the fact that you can literally get these like dropped at your doorstep for free now, or picked up off the side of the road or whatever, is excellent, because there's so much upgrading you can do to make them even better. Now, like I said in the beginning of this video, what I thought I might use this for, I can't, because I made a bad assumption that this has a PCI slot, which it doesn't. But this is not going to be the last you guys see of this computer, because I've sprung an idea that I think is going to be super cool to explore in another video. I think that hole where whatever expansion card used to be there, I think I could fill that quite nicely with this server grade dual Ethernet network card. And what if we turn this thing into a big beefy router? I think that's a really cool idea that we should look at, and we're gonna do that in another video. So thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed exploring a, if a little boring, free computer, and I will see you guys in the next video. Council will make resolutions to transfer funds from the General Operating Fund to the General Operating Reserve Fund, and from... Who goes there? CACO Television. It is someone butt dialing us. Just gonna unplug that. You're watching CHCO TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the December 2023 regular council meeting for the municipality of Eastern Charlotte. I'm Florence Mitchell.